Today, we're very proud to announce over 25 new supporters for the Safer Soccer campaign. The Safer Soccer campaign is a campaign to educate on the benefits of eliminating headers in soccer before the age of 14. It was started last year, June 2014, by the Sports Legacy Institute, of which I'm the co-founder and executive director. There's Chris Nowinski, as well as the Santa Clara Institute for Sports, Law, and Ethics, with Brandy Chastain, Cindy Parlow-Cohn, and Dr. Robert Cantu, the SLI Medical Director, as our faces of the campaign. And since then, we've been trying to raise awareness of the benefits of this change. But we're very, very proud to announce over a dozen new foundations that are now backing this campaign, including the LA84 Foundation, the Women's Sports Foundation, the Positive Coaching Alliance, of which Jim Thompson is here with us today, the National Alliance for Youth Sports, as well as over a dozen top concussion researchers and clinicians, as well as we now are very proud to have some of the legends of soccer in this country. Some of Brandy's former teammates, Christine Lilly, Julie Foudy, Joy Fawcett, have now joined the Safer Soccer campaign. We now have nearly half of the starters from the '99 women's national team that won the World Cup. Also, their coach, Tony DeCicco. So now we stand in a place where we have some of the best minds in soccer, in medicine, and in youth advocacy aligned that the Safer Soccer campaign is the right way to go for soccer. We have an obligation to create a better game and a safer game for children. The act of attempting to head the ball is by far the #1 cause of concussions in middle school soccer, over 3 times higher than any other act in the game. Almost 1 in 3 concussions is caused by attempting to head the ball. For children, no headers is a no-brainer. We can eliminate over 30,000 concussions a year by instituting this rule change among middle school soccer players alone. That's nearly 3,000 a month. 3,000 children are getting concussions because of a rule change that we don't believe, is age appropriate. Before the age of 14, the brain is going through a number of significant changes on a daily basis. Parents can see it every day in the personality changes of their children. It is a terrible time to be exposing children to concussions and repetitive brain trauma. When the rules of soccer were created over a century ago, we didn't have the wisdom that we have today and the research on the long-term effects of repetitive brain trauma. Research on concussions has exploded in the last decade, but there's been no formal review of the wisdom of kicking balls towards children's heads and telling 2 of them to try to put their head in the same place and use their head as a battering ram to knock it in another direction. All right, no one thinks it's a good idea to hit children in the head. But in sports, somehow we accept it out of a blind faith that someone has researched this issue and established it as safe. Well, I'm here to burst your bubble. We have not looked into the consequences of these concussions in children. And everything that we know about what we're learning from NFL players, from soccer players, from rugby players, is that we should do everything we can to prevent concussions in children. And this change, eliminating heading before the age of 14, is the first step. Thank you. I'd like to introduce now Ron Katz from the Santa Clara Institute of Sports, Law, and Ethics.
The Institute was created 3 years ago when we observed that there were an increasing number of ethical problems in sports, but there was no organization that was solely focused on looking at ethics in sports. So we have been looking at a broad range of issues over the past few years. No issue that we have looked at is as important as this issue because it involves the most human beings. There are millions of children who play soccer, and it involves the most vulnerable of human beings because obviously an 8-year-old is not giving any informed consent in this situation. It would be much better if a powerful organization like FIFA, for example, would speak up on this issue. Well, we know now they've been busy doing other things. But all we can do is speak truth to power. And the truth is, this is dangerous for children. And anyone who opposes it, I would have to say, in the face of the current science, is woefully ignorant. Thank you.
really honored to be part of this coalition. And as I've said a number of times, I think as great a career as an athlete Brandy Chastain had, I think the impact she's going to have on sports and is having on sports is going to be greater of her post-athletic career. Also, really among a lot of friends here, Chris is on our National Advisory Board, as is Brandy and Jerry. And all of the members of the team that were mentioned, Joy Fawcett, Julie Foudy, and Christine Lilly are also supporters and members of our National Advisory Board. So it's a lot of what we call thread count connecting here. I think if you want to use sports to develop better athletes, better people, and you're not taking care of kids' brains, there's something wrong with that. Everything starts from the mental processes. So I think when we look back years from now, when this finally is banned, that no headers until the age of 14, people will say, well, why did it take so long? Just as an example, there's something called the long-term athlete development program that's been developed in other countries and has come to the United States recently. And the idea that the number of touches a kid gets in a sport, whatever the sport is, the number of touches they get, it helps them in terms of developing as an athlete. So the idea of having 11 kids out on a huge field, little kids, as opposed to having 3x3, 3x3-sided games where kids get a lot more touches, that seems obvious now, but it took many, many years for that to become part of the soccer culture in this country. The USA Hockey has adopted that for hockey and now small-sided games. Now we look back and say, well, why did it take so long? I think the same thing is going to happen when we look back on this. And I think that's all I want to say. Thanks.
I couldn't agree more with what's already been said, and so I won't review that, but I'm very supportive and in agreement with everything that's been said up to this point. I want to offer a couple of other viewpoints as well. One of the things for me, I'm seeing a much higher incidence of youth soccer players not enjoying college soccer, not available to college soccer coaches because of injury. It could be ACL injuries of the knee. We're seeing a greater incidence of head injuries, and those head injuries are preventing players coming to the college level. And so for all the reasons that have already been stated, but also for the reasons of enjoyment of student athletes at the college level, I really want to see us make some major changes here. I've had a number of student athletes that we do not allow them to head the soccer ball in practice, and in some cases they're not even allowed to head the ball in the game because of the number of concussions that they've already suffered before even getting to college. And so this has been a major concern for me. The other thing that I'd like to talk about really is just really from an entertainment standpoint. I was hoping that gone are the days where the game was send a long ball in the air to someone who can head the ball, and that was our game. Our game really is, if you watch Lionel Messi play, if you watch Marta play, if you watch the most talented players in the world play, if you watch Brandy play, the entertainment that came from our sport was the ball on the ground, dribbling skill, passing combination play. Some of the most entertaining teams in the world in the men's and women's side work extremely hard at keeping the ball on the ground. So from an entertainment standpoint, it makes more sense to keep the ball on the ground. It clearly makes more sense from a what's best for the prevention of head injuries to keep the ball on the ground. So I think there are so many reasons to support safer soccer and this idea of keeping headers out of the game until the age of 14, especially since there's so much that we don't know. And when you think about the rule changes in our sport and how long FIFA's been in existence and when these rule changes came about, it's long overdue. we're way behind in this area, and I'm so excited to be supporting Safer Soccer and the idea of making the game more entertaining and safer for our youth. Thank you.
The game's already been won by these 4 gentlemen who are supporting this Safer Soccer initiative, and I can't thank you enough for your recognition of how important this is, not just for me as a soccer player or someone who's passionate about the game, but for the millions of young kids, not only in this country but worldwide, who will benefit from this change. And really the great game of soccer in the long run will be changed for the better. You know, with Women's World Cup in full swing right now, the U.S. playing tomorrow, there will be countless young girls in stadiums dreaming of becoming a professional soccer player. And I want those dreams to become reality, but they won't become reality if they sustain a concussion or multiple concussions in their youth career. It would be a sad day to not be able to see the Martas or the Alex Morgans or the Julie Johnstons, for example, because they suffered concussions as youth. You know, I'm coming at this Safer Soccer initiative and no header, no brainer idea from a lot of different perspectives. One, as a player. And I will tell you straight away, when I was playing as a kid, I was courageous and I was brave and I wanted to be the one who would show someone what it meant to head the ball. But nobody told me about the danger or potential danger in that. And I wanted to prove my coaches that I was listening and that I would do what they were asking and I would make my parents proud. And so I went out there full gusto, full speed, and did what I thought was the right thing by heading the ball. And I did so throughout my whole career. And there were certainly times as I was growing up that I do remember now, where I think I got what everybody would call as their bell rung, or they saw stars, and you just shook it off and you went back to playing. And so I understand what it's like to be that player who wants to be aggressive and to make a difference, but heading doesn't necessarily mean or equate that. And that's one message I want to get through to these young players who say, well, it's a part of the game, because when they watch the big kids play, the professionals and the national team players, they will see heading. And so they'll wonder, why is it okay for them and not for me? And it's our job, as my second perspective, as a parent, and then my third perspective as a coach, to help these young players understand that their career is not just today's game or today's practice, but it could be 5, 10 years, 15 years, or 20 years. And hopefully when I get to be older, you know, and looking back on a career that maybe is 50 years long, I'll still be able to play because I saved myself from that potential dangerous situation where heading was involved in the game. Looking forward, as Jim said, you know, into the future, there are going to be so many young players who will have the opportunity to play at the elite of the elite level. Because we talked about skills, we talked about tactics, we talked about teamwork, we talked about being thoughtful. These are the things that will matter ultimately in our game in the long run to make it even greater than it is today. And heading will be so far down the list of what's important that we'll look back, as Jim said, and say, gosh, we should have done this a long time ago. So as the coach in me, it's wonderful to be a part of this initiative because I love the little things in soccer. I love the small touches. I love the bending ball. I love a good driven ball. I love when two players see each other and make a connection. It's like, I got you. I didn't have to say anything. I didn't have to plan it out. We just felt the same thing. And that is what I want to uplift. That's what I want to bring to light more than can we lump it into the box and the tallest player or the most courageous player win the ball and head it in. So for me, it is no header, no brainer. It makes perfect sense. The mother in me wants to protect my son for up to this 14 years age, to give him all that he needs to prepare himself This is a time when we can prepare our children not only to be more skillful, more tactically aware, but also how can they protect themselves on the field? Recognize time and space, the speed of the ball versus the speed of the player. Is that a 50-50 or is it a 60-40 or is it a 30-70? These are things young kids don't have the capacity to understand. They don't have enough experience. They don't understand the risk-reward that goes into those moments that happen instantaneously in a game. Like I said, it's not planned. And we can't stop accidents from happening, but by taking heading out at the youth level, we can prevent what we have already been told, that 30% of concussions happen due to heading. And so ultimately, I think what led me to this point and to join Chris and SLI and IO here at Santa Clara and thankfully PCA is that I want the legacy that my generation, whether that's the 99ers or some maybe just thereafter, to leave is not that we scored a goal to win a World Cup, maybe 2, or won an Olympic gold medal, but that we left soccer in a place that was better than when we started playing, and that we really changed the game for good. And ultimately, in the long run, we can look back and say, you know, we feel good about what we've done in this game for those reasons alone. And so it's time again to reverse. We're going to reverse something, and I know I've been known for taking off my jersey, right? And I want it to be known that to be remembered that that moment was not about using it to sell something that wasn't pure. And I think, you know, I hesitate a lot when asked, will you please take off your shirt? You know, for certain situations. But, you know, like the ALS challenge and the Ice Bucket Challenge, to get people moving, there has to be an action. And something that doesn't cost any money, something that you can easily do, something that you can feel good about supporting that will make for positive change. So our initiative, no header, no brainer, we'd like to reverse the rule, to take heading out of youth soccer, and to show support, we'd like individuals, teams, coaches, soccer supporters to reverse their jersey. And this is not in disrespect to the crest that I'm wearing on my chest, and it's not to promote me as an individual because it has my name on the back, but it's to say I stand up for something and I want to be a part of the change that's about to happen. And you can take a selfie, you can shout it out to the world in social media, and you can share it to say, I believe in this. And together, if we have enough people who believe, we can make a difference. So, without further ado, I will reverse. We're going to reverse this. And we'll take our pictures and our selfies wearing our shirts backwards. No header, no brainer. That's the bottom line. Thank you.
In this season's final episode, we'll take you around the Bronco Horn for some of the best highlights of the year.
That's right, Nikki. And as seniors, this is our final episode as hosts, so let's make it a good one. Baseball played a tough schedule and scored 3 wins over ranked opponents, including an upset of #1 Vanderbilt at Hawkins Field on opening weekend.
For the current players, I think they're going to have everything that they need. They're going to have a place where they can relax, a place that they feel treats them in the manner that they should be treated.